Hola, yo soy Pepe Ramírez y te agradezco por acompañarnos a un episodio más de Dance. Y si no te has suscrito todavía, te invito a que lo hagas y le des like a este video, ya que de esa manera nos ayudas para que YouTube distribuya nuestro contenido a más personas. Para mí, hablar de creadores, de coreógrafos, siempre ha sido hablar de personas que tienen un don especial. Personas que son capaces, a través del movimiento que ellos imaginan, comunicarnos una historia, hacernos reír, hacernos llorar. Es por eso que el día de hoy me da muchísimo gusto poder presentarte la plática que tuve con la maravillosa Annabelle López Ochoa. No te vayas. Hola, pues bienvenidos otra vez a Dance. Hablar de coreografía, como les dije hace unos momentos, para mí es hablar de personas con un don especial, con un regalo especial para poder comunicar a través del movimiento y de la creación. Y sin duda, una de estas personas maravillosas con las que me he topado en estos últimos años es nuestra invitada del día de hoy. Así es que me da mucho gusto presentarles y le doy las gracias a Annabelle López Ochoa. Annabelle, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Well, still in lockdown, but things are going better, I suppose. Yeah, getting used to it, maybe.
Yeah, me too here. We're in lockdown until the 19th of January. So,
Wow. And you are in Amsterdam, that's correct, right?
yes, that's where I'm based since 27 years.
Wow. Well, thank you for the time because I know the time difference is something that can be sometimes a trouble, a problem. But thank you for giving us this time today. So I would like to talk to you about first your last names, Lopez Ochoa, because they're so common in this part of the world in Latin America. But you're not from Latin America, so how did this happen?
I inherited my name from my father, who's a Colombian man. He was an engineer and he came to do a following up study in Belgium. And in the nightlife of the salsa clubs, he met my mother, who is Belgian, and she's a nurse. And they fell in love while dancing. And so they got married quite quickly. And then they moved back to Colombia because
Oh,
in Latin America, you can get, una beca to
uh-huh.
go study, but then you have to come back to your country and give back to your country whatever
Right.
you got abroad. So that happened, and then they got my brother, so who was born in Bogota, and then because the money situation wasn't good in Latin America, they came back to Belgium, and my father tried to find a job again in Brussels, and then I was born, and right before I was born, my mother said, if it's a boy, we go back to Bogota. If it's a girl, we stay here. And here I was. I was a girl. We stayed in Europe.
And when did you started starting dance? How was that? Was this in a private school? Was this in a state-run school? How was it for you?
I was about 6 or 7 years old when I became very much of a tomboy. I wanted to be, I want to look the same as my brother. So I went around dressing like him and being very masculine. And my mother one day was really fed up with it because the kids in the neighborhood really thought that I was the little brother of my brother. And so my brother snitched me and he told my mom that. And she was like, okay, that's enough. I have a daughter and I have a son. You're going to behave like a girl, so I'm going to send you to ballet. And so I had to go to ballet at the age of 8, which was terrible. So whenever it's raining, that would be a reason not to go to ballet. But I was very competitive. I was very sportive, athletic, and competitive. So I wanted to be the best. So I did work hard, although I didn't like ballet. And it seemed that I had the conditions and the focus and the hard work to become a professional ballerina. So after 2 years, my teacher told my mom that I had talent and that she could, send me, or she should send me to the professional ballet school in Antwerp.
Okay. And that's where you went to school the whole time for ballet in Antwerp, right?
7 years to that school, and it was hard because I was the only dark child. There were maybe one, a Korean girl, and our body type was very different
Right.
than the white girls. So for 7 years, I had to hear that my body wasn't made for dance. That was too big and too fat, and I always had to be. So it was tough. But I think the passion for dance just got me through it. And I love dancing. And I was working hard, and so I made it through the 7 years.
Wow. And that is interesting because I've spoken to several dancers and choreographers in this past months, and I've heard several cases like this, like your body is not the correct, you're too tall, you're too big, you're too broad, just all that different things. And we all, at the end of it, you just said it in a very beautiful way. The love and the passion for dance make things happen, you
Yeah, it
know?
really forces you to make that choice every day, although people don't appreciate who you are. It's the same with choreography. I have to deal with a lot of bad criticism from reviews, and it hurts. And but every time for me, it's although it's not great for my ego to have a bad review or that people think that I'm not, perfect for
Mhm.
ballet. It is the passion that is so much stronger than my ego. So that's why it keeps me going.
Wow. And then, so you went to school, you finished your school in Antwerp, and you started your career as a dancer. And if I am correct, you danced for 12 years, right?
Yes, I graduated in the Vaganova School of the Royal Ballet of Flanders, but like I said, physically I wasn't apt for the classical ballet, so I went immediately into contemporary company, and I danced in 4 different companies. And around when I was 24, I joined the Scapino Ballet, and every year they had a yearly workshop. And I would be ready with my 5 or my 10 minute piece 2 months in advance, while some dancers were finishing the day off. I'd never understood that. Once again, it was passion. It wasn't me. I wasn't working hard. It was just the passion that was giving me that idea and the focus and the perseverance and discipline to be ready on time. And by the second workshop or the third workshop, it got canceled because the director came and he said, "This year we're going to cancel the workshop because big news, great news, we're going on tour to Italy." And everybody was so happy except me. I was the only one going, "Oh no." So the director noticed that. He was like, "What? We're going to Florence. What?" The director was really surprised, and he said, "We are going to postpone it to next season. But why are you so disappointed?" And I said, "Well, I'm almost finished with my piece," and it was 2 months before. So he said, "Well, I'll come and watch a rehearsal next week." And so I presented the 9 minutes of my 10-minute piece. And a week later, he said, "I'm just going to give you an opportunity to make a piece for the company." So
Wow. So that's how it started.
that's how, because I complained. And then I tasted what it was to choreograph. I just wasn't as focused anymore as a dancer. I enjoyed so much more to create than to perform.
Wow.
And
As I mentioned a while ago, and this is something that I constantly repeat to many people and to myself, of course, to be able to create, to be able to imagine things, it's a gift that many of us, we don't have that kind of a gift. We can do other things, but that specific gift, the teaching gift and the gift of choreography, for me, it's something that I just cannot imagine or start to imagine how would the process start. So for a choreographer like you, Annabelle, how do you start imagining a piece? Or is there a concept? Is there the steps first? Is there the music first or the story? How is it?
it's different for each production. If it's a narrative, then it's either based on a book or based on someone's life. Then the work starts like a year in advance to create the libretto.
Right.
That goes through a lot of stages, lots of versions. Then when the libretto is done, you go to the composer and he makes 2 hours of music. And that's a back and forth Dropbox relationship that I have. Yes. And then, 6 months in advance, we have the set and the costumes and why and all the props that we need. And really, the creation process with the dance is quite short. It's only 5 to 6 weeks. And actually for Frida at Dutch National Ballet, I got 3.5 weeks to
Wow.
make our ballet. So that's a year process. For some choreographers, even a 2-year process. When it's a non-narrative and abstract ballet, usually for me it's based on a theme. I first have to have the theme, then I search the music, and that takes 3-4 months. I have one piece and I add another piece, and then I come to the company. That process is usually 3 to 4 weeks maximum. And sometimes I change the music during the process because it doesn't fit the dancers, and so it really is different each
Right.
time.
Wow. And do you come with a the steps set, and then sometimes you have to change them because of the, or in spite of the dancers that you have at that moment, or you have your choreography and this is it?
No, I usually improvise in front of the dancers. So the
Okay.
first 2 days, it's really me dancing and them imitating me. And then out of there, I see who they are. I get to know them. Most of the steps on the first day that I teach or that I improvise will never come into the
Oh.
piece. So it's really, yeah, a blind date kind of thing. The place. I am all over the place. People are a bit nervous. I'm a bit nervous. It's really about getting to know each other and getting to know the dynamic of the group, because there's always leaders and always people that are following, and good partners, not so good partners, funny people, people with humor. I'm like, oh, that's good. You guys laugh a lot. So let's put that in. So, and then afterwards, I make the piece quite quickly.
I know that you are one of the busiest choreographers that we have actually. Uh, and how do you manage? Let's talk first pre-pandemic, before all this started. How is your regular life, choreographing here and there and traveling? How is life for a choreographer like you on a regular year?
Yeah, I create around 8 to 10 pieces a year.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't know. I just seem to be very well organized in, putting the creations one after the other with a long weekend or 1 week in between. I prepare, the theme and the music way in advance. So let's say that I'm on tour for like 5-6 months to the States, and I have 7 different productions. I have to have prepared them in my month off before that, and then I go on a roll. So yeah, it's when I was a young choreographer, I had 2 or 3 pieces a year, and now more and more. I think I'm more at ease when I enter a studio. I also know that as a choreographer, as a creator, you can't make your best piece every time. Every piece is about learning something about the art of choreography, and it's about finding ways of expressing. And sometimes I take risks and it's a hit. And sometimes I take some risks and it's like everybody's like, "What was that?" and it's scary. But I think the older I get, the more I approach every creation as if this would be the last one. And so there you have nothing to lose, except
Right.
yes, some people might not like or never invite you back. But you've done so much that you have to try other things. I don't like to repeat myself.
Right. Wow, that is for me, as I said, not having that gift, that whole, when you mentioned the number, the 10 a year, you lost me. My mind started going like, how in the world can someone create 10 different ballets or pieces, in a 12-month period, in a 10-month period, out of a year, out of a 12 month, in a year. So
I think
that
that
is
age I learned to, yes, you can prepare something, but if you prepare too much, you get the writer's block. You arrive there, and then the dancers don't really react the way you want to this music, or what you had in your head always looks better than in reality. So it's about you prepare it just for you to feel comfortable,
right.
that you come with something. But basically, the piece is in front of you. It's up to me to see who is in front of me, and to, it's like all raw material, and I have to make a coherent ballet out of the raw material that I see in front of me.
Right, right. Um, and now comes a question for me. Is it easier to work with different, I mean, dancers from classical background, modern background, or those schools or dancers that are very much versatile in all different styles? How do you find that language to be able to communicate through them?
For me, it doesn't matter which style it is that you are expressing yourself in. The most important for me is that the dances are open. If they're open and ready to go on a ride, anything can happen.
Yeah.
If they are not working or second guessing you when you come with crazy ideas, they're like, I don't know, or I've seen that step somewhere. Then it stops the flow.
Right.
And then, okay, so I'm, basically you're testing me if you feel that I'm good enough or interesting enough. If it starts to be that, then the piece is as good as the trust there was in the studio. So I always say, if a piece is successful, it's because we all wanted it to be successful, because we were open and we took risks both ways.
Both ways.
Once we start doubting in each other, then that shows back in the piece that you had afterwards. So it doesn't matter for me if I'm in Cuba and there's no much money for the production value, or I'm in Russia and they're the most amazing dance. It doesn't really matter to me where I work.
Okay. Wow. Um, I know that many choreographers, or we as an audience, can see that there's some typical movements or some arm movements or legs or intentions in a piece that we can identify like a language of a specific choreographer. I mean, we can talk about it since Balanchine, it's very specific. When you see some Balanchine or Bournonville, you can identify which is which. Um, what do you think about our time choreographers from our time, from this century, about having like a seal of your movement, or having someone see a piece and said, oh, that's Annabelle? Is that something that you think about it, that happens or not?
I think it's very difficult for a choreographer to say what is your own style.
Okay.
Um, I would like to be remembered as, whenever the curtain goes open, you have no idea what's going to happen. So it can be either classical on point shoes or very contemporary, like with Danza Contemporanea de Cuba, and something that I did in Cincinnati Ballet, which was pure elegance and tutu and point. So I like that diversity and the range. Than just doing one thing and in 50 years you'll be like, yeah, that's an Annabelle piece. I think that I use a lot of colors in my costumes, more than the trend, I would say, especially in Holland. The trend is quite monochrome, and I dare to go, that my Latin background is, I have no idea where that comes from. Yeah, I don't know. I think there is, a downfall of what we call globalism, and that all the pieces starts to look the same because we start seeing the same. We
Right.
have access via internet to a big range. I do see that we, as choreographers of the 2000s, we are very much inspired by street dance and isolations of the body parts, and the tension between fast and slow.
Hmm.
Watching movies like The Matrix, and all those. So we're trying to put that inside our work. And that's the beauty of that. It keeps evolving, like every art form. It has to evolve, and I think that dance also has to reflect the world that we live in. And with the pandemic, I was just watching a little snippet of a school somewhere in America that did the Nutcracker, a small version. Everybody had a mask that fitted the color of the tutu.
Wow.
Wow, we'll look back at these videos, and then we will know exactly this is 2020.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it really, we can only, when we look back, we'll know what the time was about.
Yeah. And I am sure we will look back and look at all the creations you've made? Because I know that during this 2020, you've been pretty busy choreographing. How was the challenge to choreograph online?
I think, like every choreographer, I would say that the musicality is the biggest challenge, because there's a delay. Sometimes the challenge is that don't really feel like you are connecting with the dancers, so you want them to be really close by. You don't have a good view with your Zoom camera because you don't see the. So sometimes they dance in front. Their head is up, or there's a dog passing. Um, but I think that as dancers and creatives, we're resilient and we are creative, and that's why we find solutions for problems. And the entire world is trying to survive
Right.
as much as they can this pandemic, especially when we realized right after the summer that it was going to last a little longer than we had expected. Like I said before, I think that we're not out of the woods before September 21. Hopefully the vaccine really has an effect. I'm not sure. But yes, I've been very busy, and it started because I saw all these dancers posting their daily ballet class online. And I thought that ballet class is not art. That's how you prepare your instrument.
Right.
But art is the exchange with a creative and the dancer transforming and performing the 30 seconds that I asked them to do. And so that's why I decided to make some Zoom choreographies.
Do you have an idea how many so far have you made?
I've done 11.
11.
Yeah,
Wow.
11 is coming out in 2 days, and then number 12 will come out in 1 week or something like that.
Wow.
Yes.
And I know that people can watch those, right? You have them on Vimeo?
Yeah, I have them all on my Vimeo and YouTube. I mean, it depends. YouTube basically mutes the music
Yeah.
because it's done without any budget. So I don't have a company helping me to, pay the rights. I wouldn't even know where to find, the
I
right
know.
of music. So yes, it's all done. And I guess once the pandemic will go, it will all disappear because obviously we have to pay all the artists.
Right. Well, we will make sure that people visit your Vimeo page. We're going to leave it down here in the description box. But so I know that 2020 has been challenging for many of us. We already talked about this lockdown, about this possible the vaccine and when it's going to take effect and really benefit us to go back to a certain kind of normalcy. And hopefully soon, hopefully we'll be able to live how we like and to do the things that we enjoy and that make us feel alive and happy, which in our case is dance. You creating it, I producing the shows and bringing dancers and getting people together and teachers.
And most importantly, I think that there was a lot of offerings by companies online, and I couldn't stay focused because a dance performance exists by the grace of having an audience. And as an audience, you enjoy a performance because you share it with other people at the same moment. And like a couple of days ago, I saw the Dutch National Ballet Gala, and my best friend that lives in the Dominican Republic had bought a ticket to also see it online. So it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon for her and 8 o'clock for me. And we were on WhatsApp chat while watching, and it was actually very enjoyable that we were saying, oh yeah, she was good, or I like the costume. It was that I realized, oh, it's the concept of sharing at the same time that makes a performance magical. Because if you're by yourself watching something, I find it very hard. So I'm really looking forward till we can have that communal experience.
Yes, I agree because dance as many other art form, it's about communicating, it's about connecting with the audience, it's about help these people that come to watch, make them forget about their world or their struggles for a couple of hours maybe, and just connect with the dancer. And I've always said, I don't care for the 28 pirouettes or the 32 fouettes. I just care, what are you going to bring to the stage and connect with the audience and with me. I think that is the most important thing. And yes, we we miss disconnection and we miss all that, but I'm sure we will be able, we pray that we'll be able to do that. But last year, just 2019, I know you've had a relationship with Jacob Spillo for several years now. But last year, you were invited or appointed as the director of the Contemporary Classical Summer Workshop. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
So
2019, it took place normally.
no, I was appointed 2019 for 2021, 22. I will be 3 years director
Oh,
the summer course for the contemporary classical, which used to be really classical ballet. So the students would do variations and they were working with one choreographer. Right now, all the variations are gone. It's more really focused on contemporary classical. And also, I wanted to be focused more on the creativity and giving the tools. So every year we will have somebody from the Foresight Technologies coming to teach these young dancers how to be able to improvise and maybe one day become choreographers, but also you are much more, I would say, exposed to a choreographer that will ask you to, do a variation on the theme. And how do you do that if you're a classical dancer and you've never had any idea of choreography?
right.
So that's how we are targeting it more to the young dancers
Wow.
to give them those tools.
So this year to 2020, which was your first since appointed director, did it happen online?
Yes, it happened completely online. It was actually the first summer course who got started online. We started in June.
In June.
We learned a lot. We learned a lot about the technology and about what was possible, and we really didn't know if we were going to be able to connect. But by the end of the 2 weeks, the dancers were, so full of those experiences, and they said, "Wow, I feel like energized and encouraged to continue training every day and dance full out because it's really hard to, do class and really go full out." So yeah, we gave them a variation. We created something on point shoes for them, and together we created a dance film.
Wow. Wow, that is amazing. Annabelle, I know you've worked with many companies around the world. And I know you've been to my country, to Mexico,
Yes.
right? With Taller Coreográfico from the university, from UNAM, right?
Yes.
How was your experience working with Mexican dancers?
Well, it was fun, except it was not a creation. It
Okay.
was a reposition. So
Okay.
I wasn't there for the premiere. So I wish one day I can really create something because then you get to know dancers differently than when you come and you say, "Hey, this is the piece. It was made for that many people, but here you're only 16 and the bodies are different." So what I like about staging works is that I keep changing little things. So that was interesting, but it's not the real deal, I would say.
Okay.
So yeah, what was more interesting was to experience Mexico because I had made a piece about Frida Kahlo
Yep.
2 years before, and I had visited the Casa Azul. But now it was really to see, all the companies, the classical companies, the folkloric company, the contemporary companies, and the city. Oh, I didn't know it was a metropole. I didn't know there was so much happening
Wow.
culturally. Because I had been to Mexico like city 2 days, and then I went to Tulum, of course. This time I was living there for 3 weeks. So that was wonderful, and we stayed in an Airbnb very close to the Casa Azul. And that's what I like the most as a choreographer is that I get to know a city without being a tourist, but I get to live like the people who live there. I go to work every day. I go to restaurants and stuff like that, and I don't see all the tourist spots. I would
Yeah.
say.
Not only the pretty stuff.
Yeah, so that was interesting. Diego was a new appointed director of the
Yep.
company, the UNAM. So he was also finding his things, also how to share the studios with the university time wise. So that was interesting how that all worked out. But I've never seen them perform it.
Hmm.
So that's really a shame. One
I
day,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was my stager who finished the work 3 months later. She came
Wow.
back and
So do you prefer creating new works rather than having someone do something that was done for someone else.
Yes,
That's
definitely.
what I understand. Okay. So do you have an idea of how many works have you created in your life as a choreographer?
Around hundreds.
Wow.
Yes, I worked with 65 companies and I created around 100 pieces.
That is a lot. I need to say that is a lot. And that speaks of a very of a mind, a very productive mind, a very inspired mind, a very determined and driven mind.
Yeah.
And of course, we appreciate that from you because we enjoy your creations a lot. Annabelle, I know that talking about awards and mentions, it's something that will take us. Look, I had my notes, okay, and there's a lot. There's a lot. So I was reading and I said, there's no way we can talk about all this in a brief time. So how does it feel when you see a list like this? I mean, this is completely full of all these awards and mentions. How does that make you feel?
I guess I will only look back at the very end of my life. Right now, it's like, it's a question that you get. What was your favorite company? What was your favorite piece? It's like asking, who's your favorite child?
Right.
The last production, the last company is your favorite. It's the one that you connect for the moment that fills you, with pride and joy right now. I don't look back. I did because, sometimes you have to write your bio and send it. You're like, oh yeah, it's true. I'm getting older. Uh, it's all subjective. A good review, a bad review, it's all subjective. It's all the thought of one person. For me, it's about feeling that I keep growing as an artist, and that I think that I'm hungry to make another piece because I feel that I still don't know how to choreograph.
Mm.
And as long as I will keep the curiosity to learn and to grow and to mature as an artist, then I will want to choreograph. The day that I think that I made it, then I will want to try something else.
Yeah, right. I understand that feeling. Annabelle, many people that watch us, maybe some of those are choreographers, maybe some are dancers, maybe some of them are just fans of the art form. But specifically about the choreographers that, or someone who wants to start in this creative process, what would you tell them to deal with the positive but the negative reviews, for example? Any advice for them, both positive and negative ways?
It's gonna hurt because when I was a young choreographer, I would read about Killian, who was devastated and saying, I'm never going to read any reviews anymore, and I'm never going to go to London because the English critics were always so bad with his work, and never understood why. So it doesn't become easier with age. I would say that I have to read my reviews because I need them in order to apply for an O1 visa.
Okay.
And that's why I need the good reviews. And I need to put it in the folder, good reviews, so that I can. It's also interesting to read reviews later, maybe a year after, if it was a bad review, a good review, to read it when you're not that attached anymore, because maybe somebody saw something that you tried and didn't really work. And so it's good to look at it and say, okay, I want to communicate with an audience. It's not about making the work, it's really about communicating. And in some ways, I'm interested why it didn't communicate with you.
Right.
So I'm interested in what was it that was flawed. But otherwise, you can't give it too much value. Otherwise, it's just going to bring you down and you're not going to want to choreograph anymore. So we don't want that either. But the sad thing is that you will never get a bad review from a friend. Because none of your friends is going to have the courage, or not even the courage, but wants to hurt you. They see the hard work and the passion you put into something, and they'll never come at the permit and say, that was shit. And if someone dares to question something, cherish. that, cherish that, that they, because it takes courage to say something negative. And usually, if someone is gonna send me an email and say, "Hey, I want you to look at my work," they usually, the intention is like, "Please say that I'm good." And then I ask, what do you want? Do you want my unsalted review, or do you want, a tap on the back, on the shoulder, and saying, "Yeah, good work, keep on going"? So it's I don't know how to. We need the reviews. We need to be ticked on the finger sometimes because we didn't go in the right direction. But usually, you feel it as if you're open enough. I always say, as a choreographer, you never see your piece until the audience comes.
Hmm.
And you're like, because you feel the energy, you feel the wave of energy, you feel if the attention is there. And you feel sometimes that it goes flat and it takes forever for the audience to come back. So that's your real review, is your audience. So it's good to sit within the audience, not that, anonymously, and feel what it is that they feel, and try to learn where it was that you lost the attention of your audience, and why that is. And next time you'll be better, you'll be
Yeah,
more prepared.
yeah. And this just a question pop up in my mind right now. Do you research the kind of audience that attends a specific company that hired you or invited you to do a work? Do you do that research about the people, the cultural or environment in that specific city?
No, I wouldn't say that I research their audience, but I research who is that company, what do they perform, um, and why am I asked? What do they expect from me? Because I have so many different kind of pieces that sometimes I'm confused to why a company invites me. Is it for my narrative work? Is it because I like humor and I make very light-hearted pieces? Or was it because I did that elegant piece with that company and I like pointers? What is it? So I do make the research and I do ask the director what kind of piece, or also, what else do you have on the evening? What do you expect? Am I the opening piece? Am I the middle piece? Can I go very dark and
Mm.
you know out there? Or am I the end piece? Do I have to use a lot of people? Does it have to go hello, hallelujah at the end? What are we? Are the confetti's coming down? It really, it's also an art form, and you know that because you organize evenings. What is it? What is the order
Yeah,
of evening?
I know you've done a lot. Is there any company or any work that you would like still to do? I mean, is there a goal to achieve? Anything specific?
Not anything specific. I have a few works, a few narratives lined up, and I hope that post pandemic we will be able to make them, produce them financially, but make them also because when you do narrative, you can't do narrative, you have
Yeah.
to see the faces, and I think making narrative works are really a challenge. And I arrived at a point of my career that I can I'm ready to embrace that challenge. I'm ready to embrace the difficulties of making these pieces. So I'm really hoping that I can create those five, yeah, narratives that are lined up. And I already have all the librettos, and some of them
Wow.
just stopped, and others were for in 2-3 years. So hopefully I can make those.
Hopefully, yeah. And we look forward definitely to seeing them and to see all your works. And I just want to thank you really for this time, and for everything you do for our art form, for dancers, for companies, for audiences, for all that you provide, for the sensations that you create and the emotions that you bring to our hearts, because it's not easy. I always say it's not easy, and that's why I rely and repeat on saying that that is a gift, and it is a gift that we need all to appreciate.
Yeah, it's not easy, and also it's also for the young choreographers out there. It's so courageous to be a choreographer and to try something out, because it's very easy to criticize something that's already made. and see how you would have made it differently to make it better than to start from a white canvas. A blank canvas is the hardest. So kudos to all these young choreographers out there that are, making that first line on that white canvas.
Yeah, we need more choreographers. We need more dance in this world of us, more art. So yeah, thank you very, very, very much, Annabelle. It's been a pleasure to finally talk to you, because I've said I've followed you on social media for quite a bit. So now putting the voice and a face together, it is great. And I really appreciate. I know that people are going to enjoy this conversation we had. And who knows, in the future, maybe we can have you here in our workshops and gala and do some collaboration. That would be amazing.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Jose.
Thank you very much. And have a great holiday season.
Thank you. You too. Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.